Hello, everyone. I have been in Center for Academic Excellence in Cyber Defense Education Principal Investigators meeting in Alabama, Huntsville. We had very good and productive discussions, particularly in among the universities and colleges in Northeast America, particularly New York State. As a result of fruitful meetings, Mercy will have a hackathon program. Particularly, we will do the New York State's hackathon competition infrastructure in October. So all details will be announced sooner or later. Reason I'm trying to give you my video lecture about laws, regulations, and National Institute of Science and Technology standards and recommendations in cybersecurity is to give you a sample presentation and preparation and discussions. And I assume some of you do not know what you need to do. So this is a sample. In this presentation, I'm just telling you the introduction of the policies and regulations and standards. But your case, each of you need to pick up a specific standards. And all the way that you need to do is very similar to what I am doing now, okay? So you can start with some outlines. So what you need to do is to give policies and even a little further, possibly enterprise information security policy, and more specifically, issue-specific security policies, as you wish. Okay. Then we can say, what is the policy? So policy is an essential foundation of effective InfoSec program. We would say cybersecurity program. The success of an information resources protection program depends on the policy that we may define, right? After the completion of a video presentation, the last slide of this presentation, I posted also seed questions, something like this. Okay, so why do we need policy? So policy needs to be defined, therefore it may determine the information resource protection more accurately and precisely. You, as a policymaker, need to set the tone and the emphasis of how important a role of cybersecurity will have within your agencies. Your primary responsibility is to set the information resources security policy for the organization or for a specific application. Okay, so it could be laws, regulations, or standards, or some practice. Okay, so as a cybersecurity professional, so you may need to do basically in two broad areas. You may be in operational side or you may be in developmental side. Okay. Which area that you need to work on between application and development, and therefore the software packages that you are going to operate or you are going to develop needs to comply with the laws, regulations, and all other standards, right? So quality of information security program begins and ends with policy. Policies are least expensive means of control and often the most difficult to implement. Basic rules to apply when shaping policies that never conflict with the law. Okay, that is very, very important. If you have a law is above the policy, right? Or law, there is another level of the law above general law that may be constitution, right? So there's some hierarchies. A specific rules, specific standards shouldn't be conflicted with the upper super level of the law. Okay, and therefore the policies should stand up in court, properly supported and administered, contribute to the success of the organization for the purpose of the main maintenance of cyber security. It should involve end users of the information system. This is Bullseye's model. As I said in the last slide of this presentation, I want you to pick up an application that you are familiar with, any application domain, okay? If you have a work experience, you may pick the application from your work. Entire the company work, that will be an application, or any specific narrow down application, which may be one small piece of your work, that could be an application also. So that application runs on systems, right? Which is communicating with the others through the network. All of this needs to be complied with the policies. And policy, there's different levels of policies. Policy itself, there are some hierarchies from constitution to some practices, right? So, in a little more detail, so policy is the first layer of defense. So, through this the model, we know how they are operating, right? So this is on the systems. Systems basically communicating over networks, and everything should be in policies. So here is the first layer of defense. How do you want to defend your applications? Then you need to have defensive policies to be defined, right? Hey, this is the policy so that our applications may be protected. And network needs to be defined, needs to be established. Systems, in this case, for example, a platform that you want to set up, install, configuration, to make your application more functional, productive, and secure. And maybe but intelligent. By the way, intelligence and security they go together. And every time I am involved in some of the conferences and international or national or federal level of meetings, now they are considering intelligence. Intelligence is very, very important, right? Although you initially make and develop some of the systems that can defend your infrastructure, then that software package may be perfected at time T1, but it is not guaranteed at time T plus 1 because time evolves, and therefore the technologies and policies that you rely on is not anymore the current, right? So defense, the first layer of defense is policy, and then there is a network layer that threats first meet organization's network. Systems, that may be computer or platform, manufacturing systems, applications, is all business logic enabling applications. Policies are important reference documents for internal audit and for resolution of legal disputes about management due diligence. Policy documents can act as a clear statement of management intent. Here's some hierarchies. You have a policy, okay? And from policies, you can derive standards. So once you set up standards, what is a policy? For example, that is sanctioned by organizational most senior management. And the standards derived from policies. So it can be built from sound policy requiring that policy be established first. So once you have standards, then you could have practices, guidelines, procedures, okay? So according to procedures, you may be able to develop a cybersecurity software packages. Or depending upon the guidelines, you may operate your cybersecurity infrastructure safely according to these guidelines. Okay. So policy is nothing but plan or course of action that influences and determines decisions. Something derived from policies is standards. So more detailed statements of what must be done to comply with the policies. Even further down, you may think of practices, procedures, guidelines, which can explain how employees will comply with the policies, how your software packages will comply with the policy, right? For policies to be effective, they must be properly disseminated. It should be read, should be understood, should be agreed to. Okay, think about those when you do your policies. Remember the requirement for this class is the project, right? So that you need to pick up an application and set of policies, standards, or procedures, practices, or guideline as you wish, right? You don't need to do all of this, right? I want you to start from policies, standards, and one of these for your project. Policies require constant modification and maintenance. It should be, right? Because technology moves and the human reaction behaves moves and the business interest or information interest may be different, evolves, and format of data evolves also. In order to produce a complete InfoSec policy, management must define three types of InfoSec policies. Enterprise InfoSec program policies. You may do so, right? If you are in charge of the entire system of your organization, I want you to work on this level, enterprise model. Or issue-specific InfoSec policies. If you are a subordinate to large organization, but if you know, if you want to work on a issue-specific cybersecurity policies, you may do so. Or system-specific, okay? So let's take a look at the sample standards that I posted. Here is our web site, okay, which is from scisecure.org. Up to this point, so we have only 6 students signed up. I assume there are 3 or 4 students have not responded. I'm worrying about their performance. But anyway, here are sample articles. So you can, if you need to select one of the areas, as this guy says. For example, blockchain. Oh, should be blockchain, not blockchain. Blockchain. 2 students are working on blockchain. They may be able to read this, or I'm sure they can find more than this, right? So they need to work on some of the standards, policies, guidelines, procedures, a law, whatever, right? As we did here. So we have a blockchain, crypto and key management, digital identification, and FOPA regulations, financial regulations, FISMA, health and HIPAA. I want someone work on this. I strongly recommend this. Information of things, IoT. I know we have one student working on that. And mobile standards and WASP. Some of these directly you can download from this website. Some it may lead to another link, right? So that you can see something from some other sources. So this is an open web application security project. You may check out some from here. And PCI, Rainbow Series, risk management, Sarbanes-Oxley, SCADA, and others. So I want you to read this. Things this presenter needs to read and study deeply. Meanwhile, all the rest students needs to read according to this timeline, so that you are ready to understand the students' discussions and presentations, right? So please be sure that you need to read articles according to this. Okay, for example, blockchain, June 20th, this is the first level of blockchain presented by Michael. And then July 11th, which is the very next presentation. I think you need to pick some other days. But anyway, 11th. So two students will make presentation. So John Abbott will work on blockchain, and Chris Martin something about the vulnerabilities of credit card information. Okay. So you have to read. You don't need to read all of this, but you need to read those articles presented by your presenters. Okay. So let me go back to my slide. Okay. So we looked at sample list of standards. Why sample? Which means there may be a lot more than this, and a lot wider than this sample list. So you have a freedom to work, to exploit on your own. And based upon my presentation, in your case, based upon your presentation, you need to post seed questions. Therefore, the rest of students can continue to participate in the discussions. Okay. So I posted three questions, three seed questions. First question. Assume that you know detailed cybersecurity technologies on a specific application. Even in this case, why standards or policies are important. So you need to involve in this. I'm going to post this, so I want to hear from you about those seed questions. So you need to practice, okay? And the second question is that share one or more standards or policies that you may be familiar with, okay, in your application domain. If you know, if you do not have, I'm sure in any organization, any missions, there's some guidelines, there's some procedures, policies, standards, okay? It may be in different level. So whichever level your standards and your procedures are applicable, please share among us in the discussions. Okay. Third question is, suppose that you are working on a new application area. Let's say you are dispatched to, or you are assigned to a new area. New area means there is no standards, no policy available. What should you do in that case? Okay, so some of the answers are guided from my presentation. So you may get, you already had some hints. So I wanted to continue to discuss. I know some of you may be able to post real good and productive answers, or more related, more specific questions may be posted by listener also. That is also valuable. Okay. So this is my presentation. Now your turn. You need to participate the discussion based upon the seed questions. If any one of you post additional questions that may be derived from these seed questions, that will be the fourth questions and fifth questions. So discussions will be more productive. Okay, that's what we are going to do. So I'm going to stop my presentation here. Now I want you to participate in the discussion sessions. All right? See you at the discussion sessions.